Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with a beginner's guide to Total War Warhammer. Combined arms operations, or tactics, involve using multiple types of military units in conjunction to create an effective fighting force. Not to be mistaken with supporting arms, combined arms tactics involve using units in a way that forces the enemy into a corner where they're only effective against one of the multiple types involved. On average, your army as a whole is an example of combined arms. You'll have ranged fire, artillery, cavalry, swordsmen, spearmen, etc., in some combination or another. When looking across the field, however, especially during combat, these armies tend to break down into separate hot zones of specific unit types. Oftentimes, the combined arms approach falls apart in the midst of battle, and many times it falls apart before battle even begins when formations are being laid out. And sometimes, when discussing basic formations, we tend to keep the logic behind combined arms in mind, but when executing attacks or giving defensive orders, it all goes out the window. This video is to give you some examples of combined arms tactics. As with defeat in detail, there are many variables and permutations as opposed to specific movements and orders, so I'm looking to instigate a line of thinking with this video. We've talked multiple times about how combat hierarchy more or less works in Total War games. Rock, paper, scissors, armor penetration, anti-large, anti-infantry, etc. Most units specialize to some degree. Combined arms looks to put these units in close proximity so that the weakness of one unit is covered by the strength of another, or so that the counter of one unit is countered by another. Here are a few examples that I like to employ when possible. Consider this dwarven army, a long front line of longbeards with quarrelers and artillery behind them. This makes for a pretty easy target for cavalry, and once cavalry has interrupted the range support they would provide, infantry lines can close, and provided proper unit selection, the opponent would most likely come out victorious. Now let's drop in 2 units of slayers, one on either end of the formation. By combining anti-large and ranged units into blocks, the dwarves are able to thwart a cavalry attack. The only way to get through safely with cavalry now is to bring infantry in, ranged or melee, but they'd have to be in range of dwarven artillery and ranged fire, which are now free to fire at the enemy because the slayers can hold back a cavalry push, and the infantry can hold back an infantry push. Or, if, say, the enemy's demigryph knights with halberds, blood knights, or a terrorgeist are a threat to your own high-value large units, try pairing them with an anti-large unit and keep them close to each other. March them around together, position them near each other, use one as bait and the other as a trap. By creating this block of 2 units that can support each other, you've created a subsection of your army that is now harder to defeat without a fair amount of coordination. Swordsmen can defeat your anti-large, but they'd have to deal with your cavalry. Anti-large cavalry can defeat your cavalry, but they'd get pinned in place by your own anti-large infantry. Meanwhile, if you're more concerned about anti-large infantry on the other side of the field, as opposed to them fielding anti-large cavalry, you can pair your large units with sword and axemen, effectively countering anti-large infantry the same way your spears would counter anti-large cavalry. Or if you're concerned about anti-large flying units like gyrocopters with brimstone guns, keep some armor-piercing range units to escort your cavalry. Are you worried about your Empire front lines being pummeled by a Gorbel? Have a light wizard and some handgunners nearby to drop a net, open fire, and surround with anti-large units. In doing so, you prevent the beast from causing damage, drop its morale, forcing it into a rout and preventing it from using potions to heal before you slaughter it. If you're lacking a light wizard, you can use your own large unit to stop its mass with an interception and maintain the remaining motions, possibly buffing your melee units to help drop the HP faster, minimize damage, and maintain morale. In many ways, combined arms tactics and defeat in detail go hand in hand, though combined arms calls for a variety of unit types to work in close proximity at all times and is more of a reactive tactic, while defeat in detail can be applied by units halfway across the map from each other and is more of a proactive tactic. You have to maintain order and decorum at all times on the battlefield, ensuring your soldiers work in tandem to maintain the strength of your army rather than fall apart into easily overrun parts, and that's what being a great general is about. For more tips and tricks, subscribe to this channel, and if there's something you'd like to see covered, let me know in the comments below.